Hi. So you've looked at each of these articles, and I am hoping that you have been able to figure out which is low, which is medium, and which is high. Right? Because the idea is I could never list every source in the universe that you could find and then tell you which level each is at. You have to be able to develop your own skills to identify a low level article when you see one and say, oh boy, I better not use that in the paper. It's here on Google, it's on the first page of my results, but it is not going to be very credible for my academic reader, right? Because again, and I believe I mentioned this in the other video as well, you want sources that are at the medium level or better in when you're writing for an academic reader. So let's look at each of these. I already have them pulled up. Here's source article number 1, number 2, and number 3. Okay. Here's number 1. This is the high level source. All right. There's a lot of different clues here. Number 1 is the length. As you can see, it's extremely long. What's at the end of the article? References. When you see that, you realize, well, this isn't like a newspaper article, right? Because there's plenty of credible periodicals like the LA Times or the National Review or the Wall Street Journal. They have articles, but they don't have references at the end. This is what's called an academic journal. Do you see how at the top, here's the name of it, the Journal of Computer Mediated Communication. All of the different academic disciplines, they've each got multiple journals devoted to explaining relevant research to scholars in that field and experts in that area of study. So these sources tend to be very complex, very long, and they deliver a lot of important data. We'll talk a lot more about data when we get into future assignments. But this is a high level source. Another way you can tell is that it includes an abstract. It's so long, they've included a summary of it. And when you read it, the language is very dense, right? There's the sentences are complex and things you might have to read multiple times to make sense of. So this is a high level source. I don't recommend that you use an academic journal for the initial research findings paper. It's not going to suit your purposes, right? Because in the background section, you need informational sources to explain the big topic and the subtopic that your op-ed helped you zoom in on, right? And in the analysis of op-ed section, you want an opinionated article to analyze. And of course, academic journals like this are never opinionated. More on that another day, right? Because you will use academic journals in my class, just not in the initial research findings paper. I think what you want to shoot for in that paper are medium level sources like number 3 here. Please go away, paywall. Oh, good, it did. All right, so this is a medium level source, the Los Angeles Times, right? It is not as long as the academic journal, right? But it has some complexity to it. And in fact, the author here is attempting to explain a more complex study that she came across potentially in an academic journal article, right? So she is delivering us information about that for less academic, more popular readers, right? Because of course this is a popular periodical. It's designed for a popular audience, which means academic audiences, remember, are what I like to call professors and their victims, right? So scholars. Um, Los Angeles Times, newspapers like that are for anybody. They're for a popular audience. As you can see, there are some images, right? They want to kind of maintain your attention a little bit. Of course, this has none, right? They don't really have any ads either because they make their money off professors that pay for subscriptions. That just leaves the low level source, right? Do you see all these intrusive ads, right? That's kind of a sign there that it's a low level source sometimes. When you look at this, look at the word choice that's used here. There's lots of slang. It's kind of silly, right? And when you look at the content of the article, it's really more about them just kind of advertising these sites than it is offering any kind of insight whatsoever. All right, so this is a very low level source. That does not mean that the things that are on here are not accurate. That's a different letter, right? But this is a very low level source. If you ever used Mashable, and for just about any class, I would think that is going to hurt your credibility a great deal with that academic reader because you want to show your reader that you're doing research, not just trolling the internet for what comes up on that first page of Google Hits, right? Anyhow, so that is how to tell the difference between a low, medium, and high level source. Hope you found this helpful. Let's move on to the next letter.